Hello, everybody, and either welcome or welcome back to my podcast. As always, I do like to remind you, if you do like this, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. Well, this past week has been depressing AF. Yeah, we've not had very many good weeks lately, but this last week has just been particularly bad, just all the way around. Awful, no good, shit happening everywhere. So let's go ahead and start where we left off last week, which was the mail bomb situation. They did end up taking somebody in custody. His name is Cesar Sayok. And what ended up happening was they got fingerprint evidence for dude. And so they found him and they tracked him down to this van that looks like what like a MAGA boomer's Facebook page would look like if you turned it into a van. Basically, it's this white van just completely plastered with Trump stickers and stuff like that. So obviously, Trump MAGA nutter. I mean, I guess you could probably tell that by the intended recipients of the mail bombs. So, ended up taking him into custody, and we've not really heard too much more about that case since they took him into custody. It's kind of fallen off the radar, sadly enough. That's how much bad shit has happened this week that we can't even talk about the mail bomb situation anymore. But that's that. Don't really know much else about it. Dude's not talking to anybody. He's lawyered up, basically. So he's not talking. So there's really nothing to say as far as him giving any kind of motivations or anything. One thing I did want to note, because I didn't see it get much press, but I know I said last week that the CNN New York headquarters had a mail bomb sent to them. Well, it looks like he also tried to send one to the CNN headquarters here in Atlanta. But that got intercepted by the post office, so I don't think it actually made it to CNN Atlanta building, but I do think they evacuated. Correct me if I'm wrong, but just as an aside, because I thought it was kind of weird that, like, the New York headquarters would get one, but, like, Atlanta is, like, the main CNN headquarters. I'm like, I was a little confused by that, but apparently, like, it just hadn't made it in the mail yet. So, sadly, moving on from that very sad, scary situation, which again, thankfully nobody got hurt, none of the bombs detonated, nothing happened with that. Because moving forward from that, this past Saturday, a man named Robert Bauer decided to go into the Tree of Life synagogue outside of Pittsburgh and shoot up the synagogue during Saturday service. I think at this point there are 11 people dead. Yeah, so that is obviously incredibly sad. Like, you don't want to see anybody die, but especially not people who are in church. And I don't remember the exact age of the youngest person who got killed, but I remember they're in their mid-50s. There were some there that had actually made it through the Holocaust and ended up being killed by this guy. And that's just, it's just, I don't know. Things are just getting really weird and ugly. But basically, obviously, this guy is a raging anti-Semite. And anti-Semite to the point where he felt like Trump wasn't being enough of an anti-Semite. And even like the Gab crowd wasn't being enough of an anti-Semite for him, because his last message on Gab, because of course he was on Gab. Of course he was. The last message that he left there was, "Screw your optics, I'm going in." And then it was like, I don't even think an hour later that he attacked the synagogue. So we'll get to Gab in a second, but obviously, huge tragedy, obviously. But what's happened in the wake of this situation has been, like, I don't even really know how to put this, because it's been really ugly. And I'm not ignorant as to the fact that, yes, there are anti-Semites in America, and yes, I am obviously aware of how Jews have been treated in America. Even as going as far back as, like, allowing Jews into the country at all, and basically not allowing Jews into the country. Even Jews who were trying to flee Nazi Germany couldn't get asylum in the U.S. because of anti-Semitic feelings. So it's not anything new or surprising to me, but it's been quite something to see people express it openly in the wake of a tragedy like this. Like, I've seen online people blaming Jews for this. Like, somehow it's their fault that this guy went into a synagogue and killed 11 people. And I'm just like, excuse me? Like, how the fuck are you gonna blame Jews for this? Like, this... Ooh, it's been quite something, and it's been interesting to see because obviously there is a faction of the far right that is openly anti-Semitic. You know, the neo-Nazi LARPers, the fucking idiots like that. But there is this strain on the far left that is just as anti-Semitic because they view Jews as evil white people who have all the money, which I guess the whole Jew and white thing is a whole controversy right there. But as far as the far left is concerned, Jews are the evil boogeymen who control all the money in the world and control all the banks. And it's very similar to the far right, like, globalist sort of thing. Like, they view the word globalist as synonymous with Jew. So again, horseshoe theory here, where you got the far left and the far right who really seem to have the same views on Jews. And it's just been very ugly to watch it come out off the back of this. Like, all right, you've got dead people, like, come on, don't do this, not now. Like, it's been really, really ugly. The second thing that has come out of this, and this is something that obviously bothers me in this situation, but it bothers me every time I see a tragedy like this happen, and that's this rush to blame somebody, anybody, in this case, Trump, for this. Now, I will go ahead and say, I don't know if Trump is an anti-Semite. I don't think he's that deep enough to have, like, a deep philosophy to be anti-Semitic. Like, aside from, you know, Jared Kushner being there, blah, 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 whatever. I mean, you can be an anti-Semite and have Jews in your family. Like, that's not like, it doesn't absolve you. It's like saying, I'm not a racist because I have a black friend. Like, okay, so you like this one Jew, or you can like this one black person. That doesn't mean that you don't, writ large, hate Jews or black people. So, but this idea that somebody else is responsible for somebody else's actions, or in this case, that somebody else's words are responsible for somebody else's actions. And I'm not a fan of laying guilt at person B's feet for what person A did. So this whole idea that this is all Trump's fault somehow, it takes away, in my opinion, from the responsibility that the person who did it has to their actions. There's one person to blame for what happened here, and that is Richard Bauer. I mean, all of us hear Trump, all of us read his tweets, all of us hear the words that come out of his mouth. None of us have felt the need to go pick up a gun and shoot up a synagogue. Like, that's on the person who does that. And this whole, like, finding somebody else to blame, I think really shifts blame off of the person who actually committed the crime in a way that I'm not comfortable with. And I see this happen a lot every time something like this happens, whenever there's a shooting, or whenever there's a mailing out bombs in the mail, or doing this or doing that, or doing whatever, you know, attacking people in the streets, punching people, doing stuff like that, that it's somehow because of what XYZ person said or what XYZ person did. And no, it's the fault of the person who actually takes that physical action. Because you can hear somebody say something, and it's up to you how you want to process that. I don't think it's fair to expect Trump or anybody else to police their speech in such a way so as to try to not trigger the crazy people who might be listening. Because he's the president of the United States, people. Like, pretty much everybody hears the words that are coming out of his mouth. And there's a lot of crazy people in the United States. So, I mean, how do you do that balancing act? Like, how is he supposed to speak in a way that doesn't trigger the crazy people? And I don't mean that in the way that, like, if Trump is out here saying, go punch people and I will pay your legal bills, and you go punch somebody, then, yeah, that's kind of on him. But trying to put an act of anti-Semitism on him, which calling somebody an anti-Semite, calling somebody a Nazi is still a very big deal. Let's not minimize that. And to the best of my knowledge, I've not ever seen or heard Trump say anything that would be considered, in my opinion, anti-Semitic. What ends up happening is a lot of these far-right, neo-Nazi, LARPer, douchebag assholes take what he says and put it through their own filter and their own lens. So when he tweets things about nationalism or about being against globalist, like I said, they view globalist as meaning Jew. But I don't know if that's what Trump actually means when he says that, so I can't fault him for the actions of somebody else who takes his words and construes them in such a way as to go do a horrible, awful, vile thing. So, not defending Trump. Obviously, Trump is a fucking jackass and should probably not say 3/4 of the things that he says in public, but to try to put somebody's act of anti-Semitism on him, I don't think that's fair. But while we're on the topic of speech, and to bring this back around to Gab, I'm sure everybody knows at this point, Gab, as of right now, as of this recording, I checked it right before I hit the record button, Gab has been completely deplatformed. If you go to gab.ai, there's a little note there about this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. We will not be silenced, or we've been deplatformed, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, what ended up happening is because of you can't call them tweets because they're not on Twitter. I don't know what you call posts on Gab. But anyway, because of Bauer's post on Gab and his association with Gab and him being on Gab, PayPal and Stripe stopped servicing Gab, which means that they could no longer take donations or anything like that. And I don't know if they were still on the Microsoft Azure servers. I think they were, but Microsoft, I know they had problems in the past with Microsoft Azure. Basically, just a pro tip, fam. If you're going to do something like this, you have to have your own servers, because if you're on somebody else's servers, they can fuck with you whenever they want. Anyway, and I should probably go ahead and give the standard libertarian blanket statement that yes, these companies are free to do whatever it is they want to do. PayPal and Stripe are under no obligation to associate with Gab. Neither is Microsoft, neither is GoDaddy, neither is any other web host, no other payment processing service. Like, nobody is under any obligation to associate with Gab if they don't want to. Okay, going forward from that. Here's the thing, though. Are these really the people that you want making these decisions? Like, I've been pretty vocal in the past about what I think that platforms should have done, like Facebook and Twitter, and I'll go ahead and extend it now to PayPal and Stripe and GoDaddy. The best stance would have been to just take a hands-off stance and just say, we are providers, we do not pass judgment on what is on the sites that we provide services for. It's not our place, it's not our job to do that, because now we're in this position where Gab has been deplatformed, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that are happy that Gab's been deplatformed. Me personally, I really don't care either way. Honestly, I don't care about Gab. But the fact that they now have been shut down, and they've been shut down because of companies deciding that they no longer want to associate with them, I don't think it's a good look for the companies. And here's why. I was reading the other day a Wired article about Cloudflare. And I don't know if you guys know the backstory of Cloudflare, but basically They were the last, like, legit web hosting service to host the Daily Stormer. And Cloudflare's position has always been that they do not judge. Like, they are not in the business of deciding the content that is going to be on their servers. They provide hosting services. They also provide website protection services. They protect against DDoS attacks, and that's kind of really their claim to fame. But their stance was always that we take that hands-off stance. Like, we provide a service. Whatever people do on the service is their business. It has nothing to do with us. We don't have anything to do with that. But they did end up taking the Daily Stormer off of the Cloudflare servers. And it's kind of a long, involved story, but the TLDR version is Cloudflare backed Daily Stormer up to the point where Daily Stormer basically insinuated that Cloudflare was not associated with them, but like approved of them, was like one of their people. And then at that point, they pretty much decided to pull the plug. I'll put the link to that article in the show notes because it is a really interesting article, especially understanding what Cloudflare is and what they do. But anyway, I bring that up to bring up the fact that once Cloudflare made that decision to pull the Daily Stormer, and they did it, they ended up getting flooded with requests from other people asking them to pull this site, that site, whatever, whoever, just because you don't happen to like them. This, I think, when you make these decisions as a company, you open the floodgates to other people basically using that as an example to say, okay, well, you pulled services from these people, so why don't you pull them from this person and that person and that one 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 and that one? And it ends up being this like massive, ginormous headache for companies because now you've put yourself in this position where you are going to be the arbitrator of what is and is not acceptable to be used with your service. And you're going to get flooded with complaints and requests from people to pull your services from all these other people because of whatever fucking reason that you want to come up with. So it's just, like I said, and I know the genie's already out of the bottle, and I know what I'm asking is not even really possible at this point, but I don't think that providers should be taking a stance as to who they're providing services to, because it's a slippery slope. And it's like, where do you draw the line? Like, obviously, Nazis, bad. So you can do that. You can pull your services from that platform and not get a lot of shit from it. But what happens if you're providing services to, I don't know, an Antifa site? What then? What if somebody gets pissed off and says, you know what, you're supporting these violent assholes. I think you should pull your services from them. Or you can even take it to the extreme and just be like, well, this site hosts a online forum and I don't like what's said on the forum, so you should pull your services. Like, you see what I mean? Where that just really starts putting you in a very bad position as a company. And it's the problem that Facebook and Twitter have set up for themselves, and I don't really want to see other companies get into that same pickle, but it looks like that's the direction we're going in, and I think they're really going to regret it in the long term. But moving on from the Gab situation, but before we leave the tragic Pittsburgh situation, of course, Trump had to go visit Pittsburgh and to go visit the hospital, and I don't think he went to the synagogue, but I know he went to the hospital and he did a little tour thing and blah, 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 whatever. And at par for the course, because Trump is Trump and this is who he is for forever, never, never, he somehow still managed to tweet and make this all about him and about how him and Melania were treated so warmly and so nicely, and the protest was staged somewhere far away and they never even saw it, which there was obviously protest because whenever Trump goes somewhere, there's protest. And it's just kind of like, could you not have, dude? Or could you have at least waited at least a week? Like, let people mourn, let people bury their dead, let people take care of things without you being there and turning it into a spectacle. And it's just like, I guess it is what it is. I mean, I don't really expect anything more from Trump than what I get. I'm not expecting him to somehow turn into this presidential human being at any point in the future, because I never expected him to be that in the first place. But it just seemed, again, like everybody else who wanted to pile onto this and try to make their own little personal hobby horse points and slam Jews and do all of the things that have happened over the past week on social media and on the internet. It was just another one of those. It's like, can you not? Like, please, can you not? To these people right now, like, I'm sorry, Jews. You've had a really rough week. And I guess you guys have had a rough week, month, year, decade, century, going all the way back to biblical times. It's never been easy for the Jews. So, leaving out of that, but not completely leaving the topic of shooting, unfortunately, there was another shooting this week that nobody really seemed to talk about. And that was, there was a Kroger, I think it was in Kentucky, I do believe, where a white man went in there and said that all blacks need to die and ended up killing 2 black people. But before he went to the Kroger and said that all black people need to die and killed 2 black people, he tried to shoot up a black church, which he wasn't able to get into the church, thank God, because could have did a lot more damage there too. Because again, it's just, shooting people in places of worship is really just it's a chicken shit pussy thing to do. Like, you're shooting fish in a barrel. Like, you've got a bunch of people. They're normally in one room. There's not a lot of exits. Like, you're just, God, just don't fuck with people who are trying to worship. That's all I'm saying. I mean, don't fuck with people, period. But just shooting up churches and synagogues and places of worship is just like, no, that's just, you don't. There's something especially heinous about that to me. And I can't put my finger on as to why, because I am not a religious person. Like, I don't go to church or any synagogue, temple, mosque, anything like that. But it just strikes me as just a particular, just a really shitty thing to do, I guess. And we'll leave it at that. But like I said, that story really didn't get much traction because of the Pittsburgh story. And I guess our news media can only focus on one story at a time. I guess we've lost the ability to, report on 2 or 3 stories at a time. I don't know. But anyway, moving on to the migrant caravan and the developments that have happened over the past week in regards to that situation, which this has gotten utterly and completely insane at this point. We've gone from, I believe last week we were talking about 500 troops. It was in the 3 figures. Well, that figure has somehow now jumped up to 5,000 troops that are going to be sent down to the border, with the potential of up to 15,000 troops being sent down to the border to supplement the already over 2,000 troops that are already at the border from the National Guard, which at best, the lowest number that would put us at is about 7,200 armed troops at the U.S. border, with the possibility of sending more troops. Now, I know I talked about this last week. This is absolutely fucking insane. Like, it was insane when the number was in the 3 figures. Now that we've hopped up into the 4 figures, possibly 5 figures of fucking troops at the border. Now, mind you, this caravan is nowhere near here right now. It's still like 1,000 miles away. Why the hell are we sending troops to the border right now? And why so many? That's an insane number. That's more than what we have on the ground in Afghanistan. What the fuck? Why do more people not have a problem with this? I mean, Trump has straight up said that this is going to be the human wall. And it is. There's going to be more troops than fucking migrants at the border. Why am I the only person that seems to be concerned about the optics of that? or to understand that, first of all, this is going to cost money. Second of all, this is being done as a deterrent. This is the new taking children and separating them from their parents at the border. It's a show of force to try to intimidate people from coming here. And the idea of a militarized border, that's not going to be a good look. It's going to look real ugly, and quite frankly, at this point, I don't see any way this ends well. I don't see this ends in a way where nobody gets hurt or, God forbid, killed. And I'll go ahead and put my prediction out there. The troops that are being sent down there aren't going to be recalled back anytime soon. Because there's always going to be another caravan. I mean, if child separation didn't stop people from coming here, this isn't going to either. So now, think about the idea of a semi-permanent to permanent troop presence at the U.S.-Mexico border. Are you honestly comfortable with that? Do you not understand how that can go so horribly wrong? Do you not understand the optics of that? That's so bad. And I don't understand people supporting this. I don't get it. Like, in no way, shape, or form do I get it. And no, I don't ascribe to the whole protecting the U.S. borders from invaders. Like, who's fucking invading? What, people asking for asylum? We're not talking about, like, an army from another fucking country coming here armed to, like, do battle with the U.S. government. Like, what? That argument makes no sense to me. Like, what the fuck are you trying to protect the U.S. from that you need to send all these fucking troops down to the border? Like, stop and think about it for a second, people. Like, this is not going to end well for anybody. Not for the asylum seekers. Not for us. Not for taxpayers who are going to have to foot the bill for this fucking bullshit. Because that's all this is. It's just a show to go into the midterms to show that Trump is tough on immigration. Like, come on, man. Like, don't start some shit that can end this badly. It's not okay. Like, it's just not. But Trump didn't stop there. No, he didn't stop with deploying all these troops to the border, which, by the way, the Pentagon is looking around like, wait a minute, what? This is not what we agreed to. But so you got the Pentagon, who's completely fucking confused about what's going on now. This idiot decides to go and give an interview to Axios for HBO. And he says that he plans to executive order away birthright citizenship. Oh my God. Like, do I even have to explain how fucking stupid of a statement that is? Some days I wonder if there isn't somebody in the White House who is just like feeding him bullshit lines to see if he'll repeat them in public. Because he said that he's got people that have explained to him that he can do that, which, no, you cannot executive order a change to a constitutional amendment. That's not how the fucking Constitution works. That's not how amendments work. That's not how you get rid of an amendment. There is a way to do it. We've only done it once, thankfully, because that was stupid. But you go through Congress and you have to get a 2/3 vote, which is not going to fucking happen for anything other than prohibition. Like, that's probably the only thing that you would ever be able to get a 2/3 vote to repeal an amendment. Anyway, he seems to think that he can just EO away birthright citizenship, which obviously everybody with half a brain in their head is like, LOL, no. Basically every legal scholar with half a brain in their head has been like, LOL, no. You have a couple of ding-dongs out here who are trying to make the argument that in the 14th Amendment, it says that everybody who is born on U.S. soil and is subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a U.S. citizen. Some people are trying to make hay about that, the jurisdiction thing, which, okay, are you guys making the argument that immigrants aren't subject to U.S. jurisdiction? Like, are you dumb? Like, what the fuck are you going with this argument? But, yeah, birthright citizenship has been established through the courts time and time again. It's already been argued. It's already been decided. I don't know who told him that this was a good idea, because it's obviously fucking not. It would not survive a court case. But again, it's just one more thing to try to look good before the midterms. And again, it's one of those things that it is dangerous. Like, does he really think that he can do this? Like, is the president that stupid? Can he be that stupid? I mean, he can be that stupid, obviously. But, yeah, it's just like, wow. I don't get it. There's a lot of things I don't get about this week. And then today I saw that Trump plans to decide who can and cannot apply for asylum. Basically denying asylum seekers their legal rights to seek asylum, which I feel like I've explained this so many times, but I will do it again for the sake of this particular episode. When somebody is an asylum seeker, what you do, especially if you're coming from the Northern Triangle, what you have to do is first and foremost get yourself to the United States. No, you cannot do it at a consulate. You cannot do it at an embassy. You have to be on U.S. soil. So first off, you have to get yourself from point A to point B, and then you either present yourself at a port of entry, or if you don't want to, can't wait, don't want to wait, you hop the border, which is a misdemeanor, but anyway, it's a misdemeanor. You present yourself to Border Patrol or some other official and you say, I am here seeking asylum. Once you do that, once you say those words, legally speaking, the U.S. cannot say no. Per U.S. law, per international law, per the Geneva Convention, if somebody comes to your country and is asking for asylum, you have to give them a hearing. There's no way around this. And as much as some people don't like it, that's the law. I'm sorry, guys. I know there's a lot of people who feel certain ways about this. Immigration is very much a hot button topic in libertarian circles. But as far as the asylum process is, it's cut and dried. Like, there's no arguments to be made here. It's what we have to do. Like, there's no way around it. If you want to go argue that the law should be changed, okay, go talk to your congresspeople. But good fucking luck with that. So, I mean, this is one of those arguments that I try to be understanding, and I know that a lot of you are a lot more closed borders than I am. I definitely tend to be more of an open borders kind of person, and I just, like, okay, I try to be understanding, and I try to understand the arguments, and I try to rebut the arguments when possible, but some days it's just fucking exhausting. And some days it just feels like I'm repeating myself over and over and over again. So, yeah, I get it. I understand some people don't want to let the immigrants in for welfare state reasons, which, okay, let's talk about getting rid of the welfare state then. And some people don't want to do it for security reasons, which, I mean, I'm going to need you to prove that these people are a security threat before I go down that road. And people that worry about, maybe not so much in libertarian circles, but there are strains of the culture crowd, which really, stop it. Stop it. But we need to move on. Because this topic, some days I feel like I'm just beating my head against a brick wall when I talk about immigration. So let's move on to something else, shall we? Staying in the same vein of immigration-ish related issues, I'm sure everybody saw the online controversy that popped up a couple days ago that The Simpsons have decided to write off / kill off Apu. It seems to be a little questionable from what I've seen online, like some of the stuff I've seen from The Simpsons. It seems like they are actually planning on killing him off. And this is in response to the whole... I'm sure everybody knows about this, but I'll go ahead and just do the backstory anyway. There was a movie put out, The Problem with Apu, where basically they went through and cherry-picked various things from the show over the past, I don't know, how long has The Simpsons been on now? It's like over 20 years. And basically trying to make the argument that Apu is a problematic character. And the fact that he's voiced by a white man is problematic. And that he's this stereotype that is not a positive thing. And so therefore something needs to be changed. Which... Why must the social justice crowd suck the joy out of every fucking thing left good in the world? Why? And what struck me as funny is they announced that they were getting rid of Apu, and the guy that made the movie had the fucking audacity to tweet out, well, I didn't want them to get rid of the character, I just wanted them to change him. And I'm like, are you fucking dumb? Like, do you not understand how shit works now? Of course they're going to get rid of the character, because they're not going to bother to try to appease you. They don't have that kind of time. Like, they're not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, how can we make it more racially sensitive for you? What would you like to see? They're just going to be like, nope, we'll just kill him off, and that'll solve that. So, thanks for ruining things, assholes. But the bigger problem here is that the people who had a problem with Apu, which is apparently, like, one fucking person on the planet, because I saw nobody applaud this decision. Like, everybody just, it was one of the few things this week that just brought everybody on the internet together. Like, everybody could agree that this was a stupid decision, no matter where you may stand politically or socially or anything like that. Nobody liked this decision. So good job, internet, for coming together on that. But the people that have a problem with Apu, I don't think you understood the point of the character, which The Simpsons, going all the way back to the Tracy Ullman skits before The Simpsons was even a show, the whole point of the characters on the show were to be these very stereotypical, negative stereotypes of Americans in American society. Like, you know, you have your fat, lazy, alcoholic dad, your long-suffering wife, your little malcontent kids, you have the one overachiever kid, you've got typical rich guy, you've got typical cop, you've even got guys like Willie the groundskeeper, who's like a stereotypical Scottish person. Like, the whole point of the show was that they were leaning into these negative stereotypes of Americans and American culture, with everybody except for Apu. Apu existed as an obvious immigrant who was actually, like, the best person in Springfield. Like, this was the guy who, he came to America, he just wanted to live his dream, he had the Quickie Mart, he had his car and his wife and his kids, and was generally a good person that everybody liked. And that was kind of the joke, was that the one person in the town who wasn't like a shit human being was an immigrant. Like, that was the point. Like, that was the whole point of the character, and to make people like think about immigrants and think about their stereotypes about immigrants. And Apu kind of existed to poke fun at people's stereotypes of immigrants, of especially the very one that we see so prevalent now, which is that people want to move to America to just be lazy and mooch off the system and just get free shit and not do anything. Well, here's Apu, who came to America and started his own business and basically was a successful, decent human being. Why'd y'all have to kill that man off? Like, why did you have to kill off, like, one of the few really, like, positive portrayals of an immigrant? Like, are you dumb? Are you fucking stupid? Like, did you not understand this? So, yeah, that sucked. That's just another thing that sucked this week. Like, everything about this week just sucked the joy and the fun out of everything, everywhere, just at all times. The last topic I want to talk about before we wrap up for today, speaking of sucking all of the joy and fun out of everything, midterms are coming up on Tuesday, November 6th. On one hand, I will be happy for this to be over. Oh my god, I will be happy for this to be over. Although I know it won't be over, because then this will just be the kickoff for 2020. Like, it's never gonna end. We're gonna be stuck in this hellscape for forever and ever and ever. But something that I noticed today come down is Donald Trump himself is tweeting out these ads, and I'm not sure who's responsible for them. but he's releasing them on his own Twitter account. And there was 2 of them that came out today. The first one it's just straight up race baiting. Like, there's no other way to describe it. It's the Willie Horton ad all over again. And it's basically this ad about race baiting against brown people. I mean, there's no way around it. It's basically portraying migrants as a bunch of people who are going to come here and take over the country and start killing cops. Like, that's what you're supposed to infer from this ad. Which, again, at least, I mean, the Willie Horton ad didn't come from an actual, well, it did, but not really in the way that this did. It didn't come from, like, straight up from a politician. It was part of Lee Atwater's campaign, but it's not like Lee Atwater's campaign released it. You know what I'm saying? So this is, that's something. Not good. Again, just nothing good about this week. I've got nothing positive to say about this week. And then the second ad that they released is, again, well, not race baiting, but fear-mongering. Basically presenting the idea that unless you vote Republican, Antifa is going to be running wild in the streets, and Democrats are going to just take over the planet and take all of your things, and it is going to be very bad. And, oh my God, go vote GOP right now. Otherwise, the country is going to be destroyed. And it's just like, dude, why? Oh, you know, this upcoming week's going to be ugly. It's probably going to be uglier than this week. That doesn't make me very happy to think about. Which means I'm going to have to make another one of these. It's just going to be front to back, awful, no good, nothing nice to talk about, weekly podcast episode. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you did make it this far, thank you. And if you do like it, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. Take care, and until next time.